Welcome to A2Council Update, a recap of the Ann Arbor City Council meeting on August 8, 2024. This meeting included comments and discussion about converting streetlights to LED bulbs, rezoning a transit corridor district at Washtenaw and East Stadium, negotiating local responsibility for state trunk lines at North Main, Huron, Jackson, and Washtenaw Avenue, and accepting $1 million in federal funds to support resilience. This is the voting chart for the council meeting on August 8, 2024. Councilmember Jen Cornell was absent. All agenda items were approved unanimously. You can find this voting chart and more information about this meeting at A2Council.com. Like and subscribe if you would like to see more content like this. After introductory remarks, public comments, and staff explanations, Council discussed agenda items for less than an hour. 10 people signed up in advance to offer public comments. 8 people spoke to topics on the agenda. The consent agenda this week included 22 items and expenditures of just over $13 million. Nothing was pulled for discussion, and the consent agenda was approved unanimously. Council considered the rezoning of 59 parcels to Transit Corridor District at Washtenaw and East Stadium Boulevard. The rezoning would apply to the north side of Washtenaw Avenue between US 23 and Glenwood Road, the south side of Washtenaw Avenue between US 23 and Pittsfield Boulevard, and between South Huron Parkway and Platte Road would also be rezoned. In the East Stadium Boulevard area, parcels generally between Washtenaw Avenue and St. Francis Boulevard would be rezoned. Council discussed the rezoning for less than 10 minutes.
The overarching goal is for already developed areas to work more efficiently and for a broader range of customers, residents, employers, and employees. And above all, we hope that we can put things that house people on things that currently house cars. That is, residential projects on parking lots. We wish to make a transition away from auto-centric land uses. The features of TC1 include enabling higher density land uses and requiring smaller footprints, which supports a pedestrian-friendly landscape.
TC1 isn't about immediate change to these corridors, but rather about influencing what comes next. We don't want strip mall development to be replaced with more strip mall development. This category has been vetted by staff and is intended to increase housing access and choice, affordability, and options along transit corridors.
The rezoning was unanimously approved at first reading. At a future meeting, it will be the subject of a public hearing and final approval at second reading. For the second time, Council considered approval of a grant to fund new LED streetlights in collaboration with DTE. The city would enter into a purchase agreement with DTE for up to $1.25 million in order to replace streetlights, converting them to more efficient LED. The grant and purchase agreement was previously discussed at the July 15th council meeting and postponed due to concerns about the installation of bulbs that would be overly bright in residential neighborhoods. Earlier in the evening, public commenters spoke to the issue.
You can store and manage 2 types of bulbs, both the 58 watt and 29 watt, and sustain a quality of lighting in neighborhoods that does not disturb the sleep of myself, other residents, and in particular the children. Otherwise, if you choose only the 58 watt single purchase, you will pay more to DTE for those watts. You will then pay more electricity long-term for 75% of excess lighting in the city of Ann Arbor. If you choose the easier route, expect that we will have a proliferation of excess lighting in our community and other communities around Southeast Michigan. Or you can choose the 2-tiered approach and be a leader in that approach.
At your July 15th meeting, note was made of the omission of consideration of the 29-watt fixtures for the street lighting proposal. According to the staff memorandum that you received in your packet dated this week, I'm quoting here, did not adequately vet these fixture alternatives. So to summarize, they just didn't do it. We and you as our representatives deserve this analysis so that we have all of the information to make an informed decision, which are going to have very great impacts for a very long time.
I asked council to look into the cost savings of installing the 29-watt LED light bulbs and apply that amount to any necessary staffing requirements to support the management of 2 types of light bulbs. The likely amount of cost would be a fraction of the amount of $8 million that's proposed for the consent portion of tonight's agenda.
I'm somewhat mystified why big corporation DTE can't manage to stock 2 different kinds of light bulbs for these streetlights, but I do predict that the lower wattage bulbs will probably become standard around Southeast Michigan over time.
Staff's assertion that using 2 kinds of bulbs would require a full-time employee is implausible at best, and staff's failure to even consider potential offsetting cost savings due to lower power usage should stop a yes vote tonight.
While this is not city funds, the negotiated deal is not what the public wants. We listen more to DTE than we do to our citizens. It is not consistent with our dark skies ordinance and will result in future additional expenses which will lead to new taxes when we replace the 58-watt bulbs in the neighborhoods.
City staff offered explanation.
We have a 10-year warranty on our recommended fixture. Lightning strikes, vehicle knockdowns, and other issues like premature failures can occur at any time in the life cycle, which can necessitate a replacement. We do expect to see the inventory management work related to special order materials to increase over time as the fixtures age. However, staff know based on existing workload and responsibilities that there is not current capacity to absorb managing even more complexity with this project by further stratifying the long-term inventory management work and increasing the upfront street-by-street QA/QC effort needed to confirm a specific light fixture at a specific location. Staff did not explicitly ask DTE to help create a plan to reduce the city's costs for having various wattages on local and major roads because we didn't understand that to be a specific request, and we apologize if we misunderstood council's intent. As we have learned more about LED lighting technology and more about the fixtures that were installed as the demonstration lights, staff do not recommend the 29-watt fixture for any roadway lighting at this time, regardless of cost. We scoped it out at 58 watts, but it can be reduced as part of installation. It's not like a dial. I mean, it would be installed at 48 watts. And so that would be something that we could do with the existing purchase agreement and with the existing lights that we're already preparing to order or recommending.
Council discussed it for about 25 minutes.
I think there's all kinds of reasons why you don't need the same amount of light as you do on arterials. But I also understand what staff is saying about the complexity of managing. So I guess I would like to hear from some of my colleagues as well.
This is an area for me where I feel a real need to lean on staff. I don't mean lean in the sense of pressure. I mean, this is where staff support is crucial, and it's where I think diligent and thoughtful back and forth and questioning between CMs and staff is really important. So I'm so grateful that all of that was done.
Councilmember Briggs attempted to offer an amendment, but was persuaded to withdraw it.
I'd like to recommend propose an amendment, which I'm happy to have different wording stated since this is not written down, but resolved that the fixtures shall be installed with 48-watt bulbs on local streets and 58 watts elsewhere.
We understand the interest of seemingly where this is going, and we're able to execute that without any kind of amendment or anything else. We'll take it from there. All right.
May I characterize the amendment as withdrawn? Is anybody unhappy with that? Everybody's happy. All right.
The grant and purchase agreement were approved unanimously. Council considered a resolution directing the city administrator to negotiate the transfer of state trunk lines at North Main, Huron, Jackson, and Washtenaw Avenue. These trunk lines are currently under the jurisdiction of the state. The Michigan Department of Transportation is responsible for and pays for the maintenance of these roads. Under local control, the city would be responsible for the expense of maintaining them. In June, city staff presented a report to council explaining the process of negotiating local control of these trunk lines and how much it would cost. The report clarified that the state was unlikely to provide enough money to cover future maintenance of the corridors, The city would receive less money from the state and be responsible for maintaining additional miles of roadway.
Act 51 governs the distribution of transportation funding in Michigan, and the city would not receive any additional Act 51 funding if the trunk lines were transferred to the city. However, it should be noted the city would lose the annual maintenance reimbursement that MDOT currently provides, which, for reference, in 2022 was roughly $200,000. So it's just, it's worth going into this understanding that in the event of a transfer, you could expect to receive roughly 1% less in annual MDOT roadway funding while still being responsible for maintaining a couple percentage points more roadway mileage.
They have a one-time, transfer fee that they give you per mile, but that's it. So it's not a tremendous amount that you're getting extra.
MDOT would likely give us sort of a one-time amount of money as they exit, and then from there it's on the city. So for someone like in my role, we're accepting a liability and all that brings with it. The questions that we posed, I'll just speak for myself, did not leave a high level of confidence that a successful MDOT negotiation were viable. We didn't see any indicators that we're going to come out on the other end with a reasonable amount of money to address what would be a very costly capital expenditure. We, the administration, have not communicated to you prior to tonight about the fact that we had a meeting, about the fact that we had concerns, about the fact that we see the capital liability based on how these transactions have gone to date.
This week's resolution identifies the transfer of North Main as a priority because it is already programmed for improvements that would be paid for and directed by the state. City Council would like control of North Main, Huron, Jackson, and Washtenaw in order to implement lane reconfigurations, protected bike lanes, roundabouts, sidewalk infill, dedicated bus lanes, and other amenities. This week, public commenters spoke to the issue.
Currently, MDOT has control over its trunk lines within our city, and it's sadly clear that MDOT does not share our priority for safety. Getting them on board with meaningful alterations has been a regular and often unsuccessful struggle. Therefore, we are left with no other option than to take control of those trunk lines so we can re-engineer them to make them safer.
If we want to achieve our city's transportation and climate action goals, the changes we have to make on these corridors are much, much more substantial and ambitious than that. And it's clear that those changes will never happen if MDOT remains in control.
An administration committee meeting a few months ago, the administrator warned council that they could not have it all and needed to prioritize their spending requests. I have seen no evidence of fiscal responsibility. The proposal to take over the MDOT roadways will add a significant tax burden at a time when MDOT is focusing on pedestrian safety, and the MDOT pedestrian crash data for all of Michigan is better than the Ann Arbor pedestrian crash data.
Council discussed the resolution for about 15 minutes.
By engaging in this negotiation process, it's not necessarily a way to let the state off the hook. I personally hope that in this process, we can also advocate that the state both adequately engage with communities from the get-go and maintain the safety of trunk lines, which is in alignment with the state's own transportation safety and equity goals. We should also acknowledge that not all cities have the luxury of being able to even engage in a transfer of trunk lines.
I look forward to this being the first step to making these roads more welcoming for everybody who lives, plays, and recreates around them.
I did have a couple of conversations today with some of our state folks who are interested in this topic and didn't necessarily know we were moving forward with it yet.
We don't really want to take control of these. We're not even talking about road quality right here. We're just talking about design.
In the event that we are moving any of these forward, and I hope that we do, it might not be all in one fell swoop. It might be incremental as we are able to balance our ability to fix with MDOT's obligation to pay.
Council unanimously approved the resolution with a friendly amendment that state legislators be informed. Finally, Council briefly discussed a $1 million grant from and cooperative agreement with the Federal Environmental Protection Agency in order to develop a regional resilience network.
Launching a model regional resilience network. What is envisioned is really, I think, pretty cool because partnering with community-based organizations for 3 more resilience hubs in Ann Arbor and then a 4th in the county.
Dr. Missy Stoltz, director of the city's Sustainability and Innovations Department, weighed in.
So there will be multiple things in this grant. There are the brick and mortar resilience hubs. There's the network that we're building to make sure we have inter-county collaboration around resilience work. And then there are other things like a grant program where we're going to be giving out grants to nonprofits that are focusing on resilience. And we're going to start a resilience ambassador program through this as well.
I'm once again reminded that our 2022 community climate action millage is being put to good use through the work in this office.
The grant and cooperative agreement was approved unanimously. The meeting adjourned at about 8:45 p.m. For more details about this meeting, visit A2Council.com.
Welcome to this week's A2Council Moment of Zen.
In my view, this meets our goal. For me personally, I hate streetlights. I'd much rather, that's where I am as Christopher. But as mayor, I think it's the right and necessary thing to do.